I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees for Tuesday, December 22nd. If everybody will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before us we have our agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time?
Yes, sir, I have one. I'd like to remove Parks 3 from the agenda, please.
Okay, I am going to put under, add under unfinished business, Ryan Grady Railroad Crossing. And then concerns of trustees, SMART Goals 2021, and capital budget. Okay.
I'd like to add about the Humane Society updates and so on.
Any other? Okay, the agenda will stand as amended. Actually, the first thing that we have on the agenda today is actually the hearing for the DORA, the Designated Outdoor Refreshment Area. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Campbell first.
Yeah, and I'll work with Tom and Eric on this. We did present it, I believe, on November 10th was the application to the board. And it was placed in the paper 2 consecutive weeks, and now tonight we have our hearing. And we're excited about the DORA. The nice thing is we have a really good public-private partnership with Greg Hills. And he has taken that plaza, and we know how long it sat vacant, how many owners there were that had big plans and then used it as a write-off, and now we have a thriving plaza. With COVID too, we think this is a perfect time to start the DORA because we need to get business to our restaurants and bars. And I know many of you have been in Canton. I live near Canal Fulton too. And I'm telling you, on the weekends when they're going, it's populated. And I think it's really going to help our township both economically and really going to help those businesses. So we have dotted our I's, crossed the T's to put this DORA together. We've been in constant contact with Grant, with Eric. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom to add his input on that.
This DORA will draw quite a crowd, I believe. And Mr. Giltz has bigger plans during the summer where we can partner together and do movies, a lot of other things in that park area to attract the families. I think this is the first step towards having a center of town where people can congregate.
And the mini master plan stated that Oakwood Square and this plaza really is the center of the community. And we have secured the 720 market once a month, starting in the spring and summer, and they're also going to bring a flair of a farmer's market too, because they have vendors that sell produce. We're already making big plans for that area, especially looking forward to taking our events like next year, hopefully Winterfest and our Easter egg hunt, and moving it into, back behind us. As you look through the application, we've already have the signs drawn up of what they would look like. Welcome to Oakwood Square DORA. It talks about no alcohol permitted. Learn more at our website. It has somewhat of the rules, and then important too is having the signs that say no alcohol behind this point. So it really sets kind of the designation for the outdoor of the DORA. The hours of operation are set from 5 to 11 Monday through Thursdays, 5 to 12 on Fridays, 12 to 12 Saturday, 12 to 9 on Sunday. There also can be extended times with advance notification. So let's say
Fall thing, week, parking lot party.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, even, when, let's say one of the 720 markets starts at 10, obviously we extend that. So any special events, we can do that. What's nice is there's a sanitation plan in the document, there's a safety plan. Grant will be purchasing the official Dora cups because you know, you're walking around, they're plastic cups, but you gotta know that there's a Dora cups. And working that out with, you know, the restaurants and bars. We've collaborated with the sheriff's office and looked this over. We do have the correct number of permit holders now that Shale Brewery is in place and has their permit. Attached to this, you'll see the site map of the Dora, you know, the areas it encompasses, the residents who lived within, was it a 2-mile radius were notified of this hearing tonight. I've received no phone calls. Tom, have you received any phone calls?
Nothing.
With any concerns with the Dora?
Well, I think the first thing we want to do here before the board adds any additional comments, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in favor of this?
Yeah.
Could you state the name for the record, Grant?
Do I look at you?
You can look at
It
it.
doesn't matter.
You're okay, whatever you want.
Turn it back to me, talk to everybody else, hey, whatever.
It's 2020, gotta ask these things now,
Yes.
right? So Grant Giltz, One Easton Company, 4835 Munson Street, Kent, Ohio. Again, you know, 2020 has been just a bastard of a year, and to work on a project like this in the beginning of the year, and to really not have you know, a lot of energy behind it because there's so many other gloomy things going on. But we always try to just stay positive and say 1 foot forward. Things will get better. The collaborative effort between us and Plain Township and all the administrations and all the different departments have just been great to work with. And so for that, One Easton Company, myself personally, thanks you very much. Couldn't have done it without you guys to get to this point. We put together a few events since we bought the shopping center. We've always tried to maintain safety first, fun family atmosphere, and so I know Dora is new for all of us, and so it's going to be something that, you know, in the agreement, you know, we've agreed to meet once a month for the first 6 months. I'm fine meeting longer beyond the 6 months, just because some things will work, some things don't work. Hey, can we maybe improve here, improve there? It's a blank canvas that we're still creating, and we want to make it great. We're not just set out on concerts, we're not just set out on festivals. We want to do a sprinkle of everything. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm here to answer anything that you may have.
Anybody else in the audience to speak in support of it? Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to it? Okay, from a board, seeing none. From a board, Brooke, do you want any questions
I'm
or comments?
just so excited that I hope, I remember I lived a street over behind Strawberry Fields, and I remember how empty it was, and negligent, you know, it was just negligence.
Yeah.
And to see how thriving it is now, and people, even today I got emails about Shell Brewing Company, oh, I didn't know that was there, oh my gosh, we're so excited, and then they were telling me about a different thing there, and they were like, oh, I didn't know we could do this here. It's bringing a lot of excitement, a lot of talk to the town, and I appreciate that you worked with our board, the previous board and this board, and getting it put together.
It's been my pleasure.
John?
This is a win-win for us. I'm one of those people that action speaks louder than words, and I have seen so many great things happening back there, and I think we can just see it continue to grow. One of the things that our mini master plan says, we'd like to see more activities, we need more of a central hub feeling, and I think this could be that catalyst to fulfill some of those concerns of the people. So I appreciate your input, your help, your cooperation. We hear the same thing from all our department heads when they meet with you, all the suggestions, all the ideas. They come back all fired up, all energetic, motivated. And I think that just speaks to everything, so
Good.
I'm pretty excited about it.
Echoing the same comments. I mean, the nice part here is the ingress and the egress, very controlled as compared to even downtown Canton, or, you know, the folks over in North Canton are talking about. So that's huge from a control aspect. But two, and this is equally important, if not maybe a little more important to me, not that safety's not, but literally the investment has been significant. I know I'm looking at you preaching to the choir, but there's been a lot of talk amongst, I think even before I come on board, where a lot of false hopes and false expectations were set. And the public just really got to the point where it's like, yeah, if anything comes out of the board's mouth, I'll believe it when I see it. And, you know, I think the only hesitation anybody ever had during this process is, I mean, you guys were, you know, we got a couple inquiries when, you know, Drug Mart had changed up their floor plan and their design. So construction had stopped just for a very short period of time. And everybody's like, oh gosh, because of it. But now it really is one of those things where folks will intentionally come over here. I mean, I've seen you at a number of the establishments back here, whether it's a bistro, Talaki Packy, you know, Royal Docks, whatever it may be. And everybody's like, this is so nice that I don't have to go to Belden Village.
Right, yeah.
So, you know, and again, tying in with our master plan, which should drive every decision that, you know, the board makes, I think this is just a good option. And to the point, you know, there's some other things we're working on as well that'll help facilitate that space out there. So whether it's a movie night, you know, out in the parking lot, John Trapani from Walsh playing for, you know, maybe an older crowd to the Hall of Fame parking lot type party stuff. It gives the community something to do.
Yeah.
More importantly, it draws them out to reinforce the visibility to the businesses. These folks, I mean, we see it in the headlines, how bad they've struggled nationally. We're no different back here, and I mean, we're using every tool within our tool belt. This isn't just like having the Swiss Army knife. It's like having the, you know, Swiss Army knife, you know, on steroids. That we're trying to use all these tools to advance it. So when, you know, things settle down a little bit more on the COVID front, hopefully, you know, we'll see a parking lot on Tuesday and Wednesday nights almost as busy as it is on Friday, Saturday night.
That's what we hope for too.
Oh, I would love like a blues festival. Oh, that'd be so cool.
So, in that spirit, I mean, I think all the proper forethought's been put into this and so forth. So, that being said, is there any other comments by anybody in the audience? Eric Williams, do you have anything you need to add?
Yeah, I have just a couple of things I want to add. One is just a technical point under the statute, which is, I need to make it clear as I went back through it today, we want to make it clear as we pass this on, should you vote on it affirmatively tonight, that it is an application that has been submitted from a technical perspective from Tom Wolf's office or the fiscal office of Plain Township. I just want to make that clear for the record, should we ever get any pushback on that. The second thing I just want to say is I want to say a thank you to Grant Giltz, to Tom Farrar, Lisa Campbell. They worked their tails off on this, and they should be recognized for that. It was a really, really good job by them.
Any other comments, Eric, or are you good?
That's good.
I have a question for Eric. This application, it says the Township Administrator of Plain Township respectfully submits the following application to the fiscal officer, so that...
That's what I wanted to clear up, Lisa. It's just, we'll tweak that a little bit.
Okay,
So that it's an application from Tom
yes.
being submitted to the board.
Okay, and then, so Tom submits it to the board, they pass, well, I don't know if they'll pass the
That
resolution.
is what's under the administrator section.
Yes,
of the
and then it gets submitted to the Department of Liquor?
Correct.
Okay, and once they approve it, then the DORA can start?
That's correct.
Okay, so
And they really don't, it really is established by the board.
okay, so could it
It's more of
start,
a technicality or a paperwork process with the Department of Liquor Control.
Notification.
so once I notify them, or Tom notified, then can we, like, when can we start the DORA? Because we have the business.
There's a provision in the statute, and I'll look back through it, and I think it's a 30-day provision, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's from whenever you pass it. But it might also be from the liquor control, to be fair. So I'll double check that and let you know tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. And will you have that application, will you fix up that front page, whatever it needs to?
sure will,
Because it probably shouldn't say Lisa Campbell Township Administrator, it should say Tom
Yes.
Wolf.
I will
Okay,
fix that.
perfect.
Tom, did you have something to say? I thought I
No,
heard
no,
you
I'm
say tomorrow.
I'm fine, thank
Yeah,
you.
I know we had to post it in the paper, and it was 30 days from there, but I didn't know, and Eric will check, when can we start it?
All right.
Yeah.
Any further questions or comments? Rick?
I made the mistake. This is my son Carter and my daughter Kendall that I brought with me, and just,
Welcome.
my wife is still working, and so I just want to let them know that Dad does work after this.
Not as hard as Mom, let's just throw that out there.
Exactly.
And you guys better be getting a good dinner after this.
We've never seen him before.
Your dad-
We have no idea.
We don't know who this guy is, he just showed up for the first time.
We're not blowing
today.
smoke, your dad's done really good,
Oh.
really great work over here for the community. I mean, this was an area where definitely beyond a turning point, and it's turned for a very good point. And, you know, honestly, I'm a firm believer, paths cross and certain things happen at times, that
Yeah.
whether we like them or not. And, you know, some of the prior plans, we didn't have near the residential build out that we have here. Now, it's multiplied significantly in what we were talking about earlier. So hopefully the base will continue to support this very well, and especially take advantage of what this is gonna afford to be, so.
And then after the holidays, we'll get together just to go over the signage. We'll make sure we get everything ordered, that we're following the plan.
Sure.
And then Rob's gonna be in contact with you after the holidays about the parks levy,
Okay.
just to see if you'll, different issue, but.
So on that note, are there any further comments? Otherwise, that's gonna conclude our DORA hearing. We're gonna proceed with the remainder of our agenda. The sheriff's report, there's nothing, but is there anybody in the audience that has anything for the sheriff? Okay. Merry Christmas to the staff.
Thank you.
Sheriff's
Thank
Office,
you as
appreciate
well.
it. Moving on, unfinished business. I had asked to add Ryan Grady. I'm taking a look at my cell phone because in order to reference the email chain. We had previously been approached about a Middle Branch area railroad crossing quiet zone proposal. In short, this is only a single resident that has requested this, but still taking into account the amount of residents that live along the railroad. We had Eric Williams take a look at the legal implications of creating something like this. Ultimately, there's railroad crossing gates and lights, but that still isn't the only solution that, you know, we should say, okay, hey, we've got gates and lights, we're good. Provided a response back to Mr. Grady that essentially the township is not looking to consider this any further because of the potential liability ramifications. Is that a correct summation, Eric, based upon your guidance?
I think the way that we framed it with Mr. Grady was, first of all, safety issue, second of all, liability issue.
Yeah, so essentially, I'll just read what I had provided for the sake of the record and why the follow, but we've received your inquiry regarding the proposed establishment of a quiet zone in Plain Township for the Wheeling and Lake Erie Railroad running parallel to Middle Branch. While we certainly appreciate and understand your concern and desire to establish a quiet zone in this area, for a multitude of reasons, the Plain Township Board of Trustees does not believe a quiet zone would be appropriate at this time and in this location. The primary reason for the board's position is one of safety. As you know, locomotive horns or whistles have long been used as a universal safety precaution. In fact, in the brochure you reference, it states that the absence of routine horn sounding increases the risk of a crossing collision. we know some of these crossings, especially on Firestone,
It's a bad,
it's
terrible.
angles, line of sight, it's horrible, so gates are not gonna be the only thing that helps there. Another factor is the liability of the township. Should a collision occur within a quiet zone, a court will determine who will be held liable, and through the FRA rule, is intended to remove failure to sound the horn as a cause of action in a quiet zone. There is no guarantee and no certain immunity for the township. Essentially, we could be exposed to a very large lawsuit or lawsuits over something like this is what that means. After consideration of these factors as well as others, the Plain Township Board of Trustees does not believe it's in the best interest of the entire township to attempt to establish a quiet zone in this area at this time. So that being said, Mr. Grady did follow up. He essentially disagrees with our assessment and has asked the board to reconsider in efforts of improving the quality of life of the residents in Middle Branch. I simply had indicated would follow up accordingly, knowing we had this meeting. Barring there's no new talking points, I believe we should personally continue to stand on the guidance that the law directors provided us, but, you know, did promise to the resident to bring it forward and not just leave them hanging out there. So any other comments? Okay, so
No, I think that was all put together by a lot of dialogue and a lot of things taken into consideration. Came down to safety and liability.
I will follow to notify and keep everybody copied on that for visibility.
Thank you.
Next item, new business, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize payment to Fiscal Fire and Security for a complete replacement of a dry sprinkler system at the Township Hall in an amount not to exceed $47,850 from Fund 01B02.
I also move on to business number 1, discussion. I just happened to be in here when he was meeting with Rob. I mean, the last point of discussion was whether or not they were gonna go back in with steel pipe or Schedule 40, and I sort of cut Rob off immediately and said, Schedule 40 is what you have to, I mean, we're dealing with less corrosion issues, pressure, maybe just better, it costs us a little bit more, but versus, you know, having steel up there and over time, not that it's, we're talking a year or 3 years, but over 15, 20 year, still dealing with, you know, steel and corrosion given water. So I think this is, you know, a reasonable investment, and the reason this is necessary is because of flooding issues that occurred in the zoning office. We found some faults with the system, correct?
Hence our filing cabinets out here.
Yeah, we don't normally do that. And I do want to thank Rob. He came in that night, he was on top of it, he got a hold of DKI, he was with throughout the whole process. Then he had the ability to sit down and explain to me, because that's not my area of expertise, exactly why it happened, how it happened, and then Trustee Sabo gave me the history that this has happened, it happened about 20 years ago. And those pipes have never been, I mean, this system's never been replaced since the beginning of this building, so, I mean, that's pretty good for 19 years.
There's been a
Yep.
water.
And then it started flooding in Rob's office, so
Luckily, we took care of that
we
quickly.
went here, but thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
I had a lot of help, but thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that ends new business.
Okay, it's going to take us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for a resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in amount of $550,960.76.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the bank reconciliation for the month of November.
If anybody's got questions for Tom on that, feel free to see him after.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is the investment report.
Okay.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is the request resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 7 is a request for resolution to authorize temporary appropriations for the year 2021 as attached hereto and made part of these minutes, and to authorize the Plain Township Fiscal Officer to submit this to the Stark County Auditor.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 8 is a request for resolution to authorize the following transfers of expenses to the Coronavirus Relief Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 9 is a request for resolution to pay vendors and utility bills and include them on the pending warrant list of the next regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, just for clarification, since this is your first go around at this, it really just between the time of our next meeting in January for a long time. So, any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 10 is a request for resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for EMS as requested by Ohio Billing.
I will move on fiscal officer.
Move, John,
I'll
second.
second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
That concludes the Fiscal Officer report.
Now the exciting part of the agenda, back to the administrator.
Thank you, yes, the moment we've been waiting for. I have a resolution before me to create a designated outdoor refreshment area known as the Oakwood Square Designated Outdoor Refreshment Area, enacting the below regulations.
I will so move on administrator number 1 for the DORA resolution.
Second.
Discussion, I think just to reinforce part of the public hearing comments that we had earlier that are already part of the record. This is a win-win for the plaza owner, the businesses in it, and the community as will help, advance our comprehensive mini master plan, creating a focal point, and it's creating a focal point because it's going to allow us to do a bunch of different types of events and programming, whether it's in collaboration with Grant, or strictly on their own, or it's something we bring to them that we'd like to do. So, this plaza sat empty for way too long, and this is just another one of those tools in the tool belt that we're enabling to help ensure optimal success for all the stakeholders back here. Any further discussion?
I wanted to circle back on the timing issue for you to give you a more definitive answer. And essentially what happens is, upon your approval, should you approve it, it is constituted as a DORA. However, we then send the approval to the Division of Liquor Control, who then has a statutory obligation to act as soon as possible to get that designation to the qualified liquor permit holders. So I don't think it's going to be very long after you approve it, should it be approved.
And Eric, the question is, I'm instructed to forward that to him, and it says, and to the investigative unit of the Ohio Department of Public Safety. I don't know who that is.
I'm going to help you with that, we'll work on it tomorrow.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Yay, and you don't have to stay, you're welcome to leave.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you guys, you're more than welcome to stay if you find us.
Feel like great white ninjas and get out of the door.
Yes.
Go get something good to eat behind us.
Thanks for
None
coming.
of them have indicated they want to enter political science or anything like that just yet, so maybe next meeting. Thanks, guys.
you.
Have a good Christmas.
Thank you,
Merry Christmas,
yes,
guys.
Merry
Take care.
Christmas, yes. And that's the end of the administrator report.
Okay, thank you. That's gonna take us to fire department.
Thank you.
Chief Shalber.
Item number 1 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize reimbursement to Joe Teal in the amount of $400 for healthcare membership according to provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to offer employment to Frank Osorio, Dane Johnson, Alexander Dietrich, Maxwell Tisdale, Brent Ballman, since they have completed their fire medical examination, background check, and drug testing, to be hired January 1st at $700.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Essentially, Chief, this is to backfill some of the positions where we've had folks that have left the department either through just too busy of a schedule and they weren't able to keep up with the part-time, or we've even had some folks that come up from the part-time ranks into the full-time ranks, so this is backfilling that part-time bench strength.
That is correct, yes. So that would be getting some more part-timers in our system to allow for that to happen. And so this is like the second step. They got their drug test and stuff done over the last few weeks and then officially hiring. But yeah, so that'll give us some more. And as a matter of fact, a couple of these young men are just about ready to become paramedics. They're taking their testing now, so that'll help us out too. So.
Perfect. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize reimbursement to Scott Yana amount for $350 for healthcare membership according to provision 37 of the collective bargaining agreement.
I will so move.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. It's gonna take us road and compliance tonight, but we have Mr. We've been blessed with Mr. Iacino's presence here this evening.
I was feeling lonely, so
Thankfully, we didn't get any of the major snow accumulation that
well, we can talk afterwards about New Christmas Eve.
We're hearing it's gonna
Yeah, it's
be
coming.
nasty, you know.
Okay. Let's see, that moves us to zoning. Tom?
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to declare item A as a nuisance abatement.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that's all for zoning.
Thank you. It's gonna take us to Parks Department, Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution for 1 mil levy certification to the auditor's office.
I will move on part 1.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution to certify 0.75 of a bill for levy certification to the auditor's office.
I will so move.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. Okay, that concludes Parks.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Nothing officially under the law director. Eric, are you good?
I'm good, sir.
Okay. Takes us, nothing on our communications. Takes us to the portion of the meeting, public speaks. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board? Seeing none, that'll move us to concerns of trustees. First thing I had, want all the department heads to be thinking about what your SMART goals are gonna be for 2021. Want to have those ironed out by the end of January, so we know what we're moving into by the end of that first month. Again,
Joe's can't be to retire though,
You've got to give me one more year.
but that can't be a SMART goal.
But what I'd like to see is
Way to shoot
two,
me down, Lisa.
two no more than three, and it should just fall under that natural business, something that stretches. Second thing that I had, just capital budget, you know, the prior board, we initiated the conversation, and then it's just come under the state through this board's tenure that our prior request for $250,000 to go towards a permanent flush facility at Diamond is passed within the legislature. It's pending the governor's signature. So for the Plain Township public, just want to share with you, no different than our work session, and we're talking about millage certification for parks levy consideration. This board, this collective staff continues to exhaust all of the grant and different funding options, and the state capital budget's relatively newer for us here in Plain to be using some of our surrounding neighboring communities, North Canton and Jackson, have been using it for a while. So this is something, just because we get this flush facility moving forward and so forth, we all need to be thinking, what can we be requesting out of the state capital budget on a two-year cycle basis? So what, if we got to flag something in our Outlook calendars as a every other year reminder, I mean, we keep up the line of communication with Kurt Schuring, Scott Olslager, Reggie Stoltzfus, and so forth. But I mean, if it was outside of this team collaborating, it's really keeping the communication lines open with those guys down there to help this materialize. And you know, when we see, hey, 500,000, 750,000, not 250,000 isn't chump change, but we still got a lot of other opportunities that we need to be thinking about. And you know, whether we maintain that as a list somewhere, so it's not a fire drill, and what can we come up with? I just wanted to share that good news. So, do we know what that? What was it? What was that?
That gentleman
Oh,
is about the zoning office.
okay. And then I'll turn it over. Brooke had two updates.
Yes, I just wanted to say to the public, thank you so much for all the donations for the Stark County Humane Society. I have done 3 trips there. They are very grateful, thankful for the food for their rabbits, for the blankets, the sheets, the cat food, dog food, the toys, and so forth. They are still in need of Timothy hay for their rabbits and pellet food. In particular, they have a number of rabbits there that they don't have the right food for them. And then also, Sam Center, we are very appreciative there of all the donations that we have been collecting throughout the month. And we had a big toy drive and a big stuff the trailer, and we were able to do.
Actually, Brian just called. It's right almost 100 families.
Oh,
So,
my.
yes.
So
So we're very
that's
appreciative
not
to the public
100
for that.
individuals, that's
No,
100 families. So
many.
there was almost, his goal is to have the numbers finalized, but there was at one point the number of 317 children that were going to be impacted. So, you know,
That's a big.
multiple drop locations, and you know, it definitely come through. As challenging as this year is,
Yeah.
everybody still not only
Collectively
stepped up, but they
together,
stepped up even more so as what we saw.
So I
to
just
help.
wanted to say thank you to everybody for that.
That's amazing. Because I know we had a lot of donations from the trustees, from the fire department, from the road department, from parks. I mean, it was, and Tom, it was just nice to see our staff, but then the community get so far behind it.
And we will, I see stuff out there in the lobby again, so I will be making another drop off tomorrow, so thank you, everybody.
John, do you got anything else? No. The only one thing, and I didn't add this, but I just want to wish the entire staff a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year's, Happy Holiday, should it be something other than Christmas that you observe. 2020 has been nothing shy of a fire drill. I'd like to use other words, but fire drill, you know, with COVID and how it's impacted operations, from staffing, you know, staggering shifts, the impact that it's had, you know, especially, you know, for Chuck with, you know, the amount of our staff that interacts with the public and dealing with COVID, and, you know, with us having to, you know, manage to reduce manpower. It really has been a year of resiliency, but it's also one that, I mean, I think we should all be extremely proud of, because in the face of turmoil, not only did we step up for the community and continuing to deliver the level of service they expect, but especially through the COVID cares, we have been able to do so much for the businesses. Really wish we could do more, but the resources that we were entrusted with, we responsibly and tactically got them to the folks, and I think it speaks volumes of our team, because I know there were some other communities where sidebar conversations, we don't know if we want to get tied up in all this, but again, taxpayer dollars at the end of the day that we're all going to be on the hook for, so let's optimize the benefit. I'm just extremely proud of what's been accomplished this year in the face of turmoil, so in that spirit, hopefully, you know, we can all kick 2020 to the rearview mirror and look forward to a healthy, happy, productive 2021. So.
And thank you for putting up with me for my first year and all my questions to the board. I've learned a lot, and never expected my first year in office to be one with a pandemic and trying to navigate all that I need to with the job in terms of that. But I appreciate everybody helping me, and I know it was a rough start, but I think anybody who's the new kid on the block, it's always different. I'm glad that we are finally been able to work together as a team.
You guys keep looking at the clock, so I'll just say whatever they said.
That'll conclude concerns of the trustee, concerns of the fiscal officer.
No concerns.
Okay, it'll take us to the approval of the special minutes for December 15th, 2020, and I will so move.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Second, John. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Next item is approval of the minutes for December 22nd,
I will so move.
2000. Wait a minute.
No.
Oh,
We can't do that.
No.
That's tonight's meeting.
No, it says December 8th.
I got December 15th and then December 22nd.
Oh, no, this says on the approval minutes, December 8th.
Yeah, my agenda says that too. Says
Oh, the
the
agenda
22nd.
says it,
Yeah.
but on the actual resolution,
Yeah,
it says
so,
December
yeah.
8th.
We didn't catch that. That should say.
Okay, so I will go back. My second motion will be to approve the meeting minutes from December 8th, 2020.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Okay, there is a need for executive session, so I'll make a motion, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn the executive session at 6:44 p.m. from this regular meeting as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of consideration of 1E, promotion or demotion of a public employee or official, and 1F, compensation of a public employee or official.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.